everybody. Welcome once again to another installment of A Rebel Without Applause, coming to you, as I always do, right here from this little nutshell of infinite space. By that I mean my television studio apartment right here in the Wood of the Holly, as I embark on the first episode of Season 5 of A Rebel Without Applause. So welcome one and all. So glad to have you here. And as of late, I have been trying to sort through my feelings about one Joe Rogan. Now, I have no personal experience with Joe Rogan. I've never met the dude, or if I did, I don't remember. I've never heard his podcast or even seen his stand-up act, so I'm not a fan, but I'm not a hater either. But it seems, at least superficially, that Joe and I have some things in common. Firstly, we're both bald, but unlike Joe, I generally cover my baldness with a wide variety of hats, one of which I am wearing now. It's funny how God works. He takes away my hair, but I look pretty good in hats. Now, at first glance, Joe Rogan seems like a very tough guy. You know, a man's man. He bleeds testosterone. He's ripped. And he's got the requisite tats on bulging biceps to prove it, which makes sense since he earned his fame hosting mixed martial arts TV extravaganzas, and all those guys are ripped and tatted and have bulging biceps too. If I didn't know better, Joe Rogan could easily pass for a proud boy or an oath keeper, and he would look perfectly at home barging into the Capitol Dome. But that's not his vibe as far as I can see. I mean, maybe when they cast the movie, tentatively titled January 6, he can get one of those parts. But as for yours truly, I'm nowhere near as tough as Joe. I mean, yeah, I played football in high school, but it was never really me. Back in those days, I was a baseball guy with dreams of glory on the diamond. And nowadays, I would say I am more of a go-with-the-flow guy. I'm a swimmer, I'm a surfer, and a paddleboarder. If you want to find me, best place is out at Malibu, riding that point-break right-hander from God on my orange Flowmaster. Secondly, as far as similarities go, I am a podcaster, and yeah, so is Joe. Both of our podcasts can be found on Spotify, but unlike Joe, I am not paid $100 million to be there. As a matter of fact, I frankly have yet to make a dime from my podcast, even though I am starting my 5th season of minor musings about everything and nothing. Thus far, A Rebel Without Applause has been strictly a pro bono deal. Though, I'll tell you this, I would not be sad if my podcast and YouTube channel actually started becoming a pro Billcade deal. By that I mean earning real money. But frankly, I have learned the hard way that I can't control that. I mean, the fame game is pretty much orchestrated by the gods above, not by us mere mortals below. If the fairy dust is on you, good luck and enjoy the ride. And if the fairy dust is not on you, good luck and enjoy the ride. So be it. The truth is, I'm doing this as a way of staying irrelevant in very relevant times, and also to keep from going insane for lack of legitimate acting work or stand-up bookings. And most assuredly, I would not be doing this if I was directing any one of my 9 unproduced screenplays. So it goes without saying, but I will say it anyway, that my need to stay irrelevant far outweighs anybody's desire to see me. So if you are watching or listening, my gratitude goes out to you. Now, also, like Joe Rogan, I cut my teeth as a stand-up comedian. As a battle-tested merchant of mirth tolling in the netherworld of the LA stand-up scene, I am sure I crossed paths with Joe, but we never became friends or even acquaintances, and if we did meet, I don't remember. And if you asked him, I would bet you a pair of Super Bowl tickets that he doesn't have a clue who I am. After all, he was a regular at the main comedy venues in Hollywood, and I was more or less exiled to the outlying venues in the San Fernando Valley, where nobody who was anybody in the biz has been seen since Lincoln took in that show at Ford Theater. The sad truth was that if I had wanted an agent or a casting director to see me on a stand-up stage, I would have to go all Rupert Pupkin to get any attention. And if you don't know who Rupert Pupkin was, check out Scorsese's King of Comedy, where Robert De Niro, playing Rupert Pupkin, kidnaps that talk show king played by Jerry Lewis so he can get his shot on TV. Well, I hate guns, and I'm not the violent or kidnapping type, and and for that matter, I never did coke or smoked pot, and for reasons that still elude me, I never got the big stand-up shot on TV that I so pined for. Oh well, so be it. By the way, if you want to see about a movie about my story, check out the one I wrote and directed. It's called The Solar Opposite. It's about a comedian whose love life is a joke, and it's all true, except for the happy parts, which I added. So, what can I say? I'm 66 years old, and while most of my peers are talking about retirement and 401ks, I am still looking for my big break, or even a little break. Yep. Despite my best efforts, I am still toiling anonymously in my television studio apartment right here in the Wood of the Holly. As a matter of fact, I am living proof that if you're white and you're privileged and you hang in there and you pay your dues and you stay disciplined and sober, and most importantly, never, ever let go of your dreams, you still might not make it. Yeah, that's why I believe it is so important to maintain that balance between the personal and the professional. And after a lot of inner work and meditation, I feel like after all these years, I've finally found that balance, that equilibrium, because now I have no personal life and no professional life. I'm there. Yeah, baby. Honestly, by all accounts, I should be insanely depressed. I should be fucking miserable, maybe even suicidal. But the truth is, I'm really happy. I mean, something must be seriously wrong with me. I should get a therapist. Well, actually, I am seeing a therapist, a Thai massage therapist. I mean, sure, yeah, I could pay some PhD dude $300 an hour to share my feelings, or I could let lovely little Lucy rub my balls for 45 minutes. Believe me, I can tell you from experience, I know which form of therapy is more healing. Actually, truth be told, I dated a Thai massage therapist. I did. What started out with a happy ending turned out to be just the beginning. But that's another story. But actually, when I look at the big picture, my life is great. I mean, I can see it. I have a roof over my head, which is way better than a tent, which is what a lot of my nearby neighbors are living under. I've never missed a meal or a vacation or whatever. I wasn't in the Holocaust. I didn't have to go to Vietnam or Iraq or Afghanistan. No, but I mean, a few years ago, I did have 2 weeks of jury duty in Glendale, which should count for something. And furthermore, I have no student debt, and I feel pretty good. I'm fully vaxxed and boosted, and thus far, I have yet to be bitten by that COVID bug. So, yeah, my life is good. So where was I? Oh, yeah, geez. Joe and Me. So, if you haven't heard, big bad Joe Rogan recently stumbled into an ugly, smelly pit of goo. A pit of goo mostly of his own making, because over the last few desperate COVID-addled years, Joe has entertained guests who entertained alternative, by that I mean false ideas about vaccine and the virus and ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine and all manner of unapproved treatments. Over the last few years, Joe has cozied up to some of the worst anti-vax goofballs and given those goofballs what they want most, a platform to shout out their so-called opinions. Opinions that rank with, like, the earth is flat, or the moon is made of cheese, or the election was rigged, etc., etc. Now, under normal circumstances, these goofballs would be kind of forgivable, but frankly less so when the death rate in our country from that virus is topping 900,000 human souls. I mean, I get it. When you chase clicks, likes, and followers and subscribers for a living, you could put yourself into some very uncomfortable corners, especially when the streaming platform that you're on is paying you $100 million and you are very, very famous. So that's where Joe is now, in a very uncomfortable corner, made more uncomfortable because songwriting legends Neil Young and Joni Mitchell, both of whom I dig, decided to pull their music from said streaming platform. So Joe is now apologizing his ass off to get out of that very uncomfortable and gooey corner. And worse yet for Joe, his corner got even more uncomfortable and gooier because as of late, he has been cited for unauthorized use of the N-word. And by N-word, I don't mean narcissist. You would have to be more than a schmuck not to know that in today's world, the unauthorized use of the N-word is a sin unforgivable. So quick word of advice to Joe, don't be dropping no N-bombs unless you're a card-carrying descendant of plantation slavery. You ain't got that right. Now, while I agree in principle with Neil Young and Joni Mitchell, I won't be pulling my podcast or my music. That's right, I have an album. I won't be pulling that from Spotify because, well, nobody would notice, and I really don't know how to do that, meaning unplug myself from a streaming service. Hell, I don't even know how I got on. And also, this podcast will appear on Spotify. So rather than pull myself off the streaming service, I think it's better to confront Joe's schmuckiness with my truth, or at least my best version of it, because basically I am a free speech in the public square guy, even if that speech is schmucky and kind of dangerous. Maybe the real issue is that this so-called public space that Spotify offers, well, it really isn't that public at all. What it is a privatized corporate space, and Joe is making beaucoup bucks for the privilege of sharing his schmuckiness with the rest of us, which enough of us dig to make it worth it to Spotify to pay Joe. So, who's the real sinner here? I guess the deepest truth is schmucks and all their schmuckiness are all around us. Schmuckiness is in the ether like that virus. You can't censor schmuckiness because schmuckiness is everywhere. So until my big break comes, I will take comfort in the knowledge that my own obscurity protects me from my own schmuckiness, while at the same time Joe's celebrity exposes him to his. So for the time being, I am safe because obscurity has its privileges, and for the time being, I am enjoying mine. So there you have it. That's my truth, I think, until I change my mind. Till then, namaste, shalom, and aloha. By that, I mean nama shaloha.